and welcome to another episode of Fridays with Fawn. I'm Fawn Lopez, publisher emeritus of Modern Healthcare and your host. Today, I'm talking with Tina Murphy, president and CEO of GHX, a global healthcare supply chain platform that enables healthcare providers and suppliers to reduce costs and improve margins. Tina, I'm so delighted to have you with me today as my guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, and thank you. I'm honored to be here. I've watched many of your podcasts, so it is a great honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get started. I can't wait. Would love to hear from you about your experience, your time at GHX. You've been at the organization for more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about your journey from where you started to your current role as CEO?
Yeah. And it's interesting. You're right. I started 23 years ago. In fact, I got married, I went on my honeymoon, and I started at GHX the Monday I got back. And in a lot of ways, kind of GHX has paralleled my personal life. I've had 2 kids and actually recently took my oldest to college on the other side of the country the same year that I moved into this new role. But, when I reflect on 23 years ago and where we were, I came to work for GHX, and GHX's founding was interesting. It was Baxter, Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, GE, and Medtronic came together, and they founded GHX because there were rising healthcare costs, and they saw the need to come together to lower the cost of healthcare. In those early days, we had this big, ambitious vision, but we were really nothing more than a PowerPoint. And but it was really exciting to be on the front lines, evangelizing the importance of this vision. So 23 years later, today, it's incredibly rewarding to see that we are healthcare's leading supply chain platform, impacting hundreds of millions of patient lives, helping healthcare systems deliver more affordable care, more quality care for all. So I would say there's been a whole lot of highs and lows over the past 23 years, but it's incredibly rewarding to be where we are today.
That's really amazing, and congratulations on your daughter going to college.
Yeah.
Where's she going?
She's going to Brandeis.
Oh, wow. That's a great school.
You know what? It is. And I really struggled before she went away. And then, you know what I learned? There's actually no space in a mama's heart to be sad when your child is happy. And she seems to be happy. So
I just love that. That's great. Okay, so let's get back to our conversation.
Yes.
What drew you to a career in healthcare in the first place? And what are some things that have motivated you, inspired you to stay in this incredible field that we're in?
Yeah. Why I got into healthcare is kind of a fluke, but I can certainly speak to why I've stayed. I very clearly see that we can do better to keep society healthy. In fact, as a nation as wealthy as ours, there should not be such a correlation between your health and your wealth. I think we can do better. I think we should do better. And I don't think it's just a moral imperative. While I do personally believe that my health is as important as the health of my brothers and sisters, it's not just a moral imperative. It's also a financial imperative. In fact, Deloitte speaks to the cost of health inequity today is $300 billion. And they expect that to rise to over $1 trillion by 2040. So why? Why did I stay? Because I clearly see the link between the work we do in creating a healthier, thriving society. And to me, that matters.
I so agree with you on this whole concept of health is wealth,
Yeah.
especially in
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
right? So,
Mhm.
so thank you for that. So GHX is focused on helping healthcare, its customers, healthcare leaders improve efficiency in the
Yeah.
supply chain.
Yeah.
How does this ultimately translate to the most important goal of improving patient outcomes?
I'm glad you asked that question because I think it's a really important question. And I don't know that everybody, clearly sees the link between the supply chain and a patient getting the care that they need. But just imagine a patient showing up to get their heart valve procedure and it's canceled because the products aren't there. Or imagine the clinicians on the front lines that are inspired to heal a patient and they can't do that because the product isn't there. It's either back order or there's a shortage. So we can very clearly see the link between delivering care and the supply chain on the front lines. But there's also significant back office implications. In fact, I was with a customer, a head of supply chain last week, and they said something which was not the most inspirational thing I've ever heard, but it made the point. And what he said was no margin, no mission. I didn't really like the quote, but it made the point. It made the point
So
very
true.
clearly. But it's true, right? It's true. In healthcare systems today, they have to lower costs by tens of millions of dollars to be able to continue delivering care. And what they are seeking to do is lower cost while improving outcomes, which is in fact the definition of value-based care, right? Lowering cost, improving patient outcomes. And so the healthcare supply chain sits at the nexus of the healthcare system being able to deliver the care they need when they need it, when the patient needs it, at the best cost with the best outcomes.
Couldn't agree more with you. So let's talk about something that you feel very passionate about. Your leadership philosophy has been shaped by the concept of deep purpose. What does this concept mean to you, and how has it influenced your work at GHX, and how can other organizations embrace this philosophy?
Yeah. A deep purpose means feeling a true and profound connection to the work you do and the outcomes and your mission and your vision. And having a deep purpose has always been incredibly important. I think it's more important than ever today because I do believe that we are in the midst of a mental health crisis, right? You hear statistics about 38% of physicians being burned out. That's more than the general population. We hear statistics about being within a hospital has 5 times more incidents of workplace violence. So within our healthcare system, there's this stress. Zoom out to the macroeconomic climate, and there's wars in the Middle East, in Ukraine. It's a really, in some ways, the world is a heavy place. And so feeling that purpose and that connection, having clarity on how through your work you are able to serve a patient life is it's more important than ever. And so at GHX, we're continually anchoring to that deep purpose. In fact, I'd love to share a story. There's a guy that works in our HR department, Isaac Rodriguez, and he recently shared with me that he grew up in a low-income family, and he was one of 4 kids, and they couldn't afford health care. And so they had to wait a long time to get care. And he tells this story about his mom, taking he and his siblings to get the care, and they'd be rushed in and out, and they didn't get the care that they need. And, this vision of Isaac's mom, as a mother, I just can't imagine anything more painful than not being able to get basic care for your child. And what Isaac talks about, he says, he works in the HR department. In fact, he keeps our HR applications running. Mm-hmm. And yet he recognizes that while he works on our HR systems, he is part of the overall GHX mission and vision and enterprise. And even though he is in the back office, his work is just as critical to those on the front lines working with our customers, making sure that they can deliver the care that they need. And that is deep purpose, and I think illustrates the importance of deep purpose.
And it takes all of us, right, to make it happen. And if everyone like Isaac, everyone in our organizations is like Isaac, wouldn't our companies be so much better? Because everyone comes to work with a sense of purpose and mission. And it will transcend what they do and how they approach their work. Yeah?
Absolutely. And it is more than just creating a good culture. There's a book that I would recommend. You asked how other people can get started. There's a book by Ranjay Gulati called Deep Purpose. And what he talks about is not just the importance of deep purpose and culture, but also in terms of impacting, the financials of a company. When people are more engaged, they show up more fully present, and can help also improve the financials of the organization.
100%. Mm-hmm. And to your point, let's talk about culture. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are also important aspects of your leadership philosophy.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have put these concepts into action through the creation of GHX Diversity and Inclusivity Advisory Council.
Yes.
Can you tell us some of the council's initiatives and the results you've seen?
Absolutely. So I would say, because this is incredibly important to me, and I think it is very important for people not to view this as just check boxes, but to ultimately believe and understand how much it matters. And I think there's a lot of data out there on the link between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and driving innovation. And so there's no question. There is a link between diversity and innovation, and we all know that. But I think what we don't talk about near as much is the power and the strength of working in a company that values diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Because when we have a psychologically safe place to show up as our full authentic self, we are more wholly present, we make better decisions, and it's just a lot better, more comfortable place to work. There's an interesting story on psychological safety. And when this concept first emerged, interestingly enough, it actually emerged in a hospital where they were studying nurses, and they looked at nurses that felt like they were part of a team versus those that felt like they weren't part of a team. And those that felt that they were part of a team reported more mistakes. And it seemed counterintuitive. But when they dug in further, what they found is those that were part of a team just felt more comfortable admitting and reporting their mistakes versus those that didn't feel comfortable. So think about that they were holding back on the learnings that would actually improve patient outcomes because they didn't feel they were working in a psychologically safe space. So there is tremendous power in working for an organization that values diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So then you said, how do you measure? Well, you measure activity, and we have a committee that measures all of the training that we're doing, all the activities we're doing, but then you got to measure outcomes. And you know what? At the end of my first year as CEO, I thought we'd done remarkable stuff. And then we looked at the data, and what I found is, we had made a lot of progress in terms of gender diversity. But you know what? We'd fallen short in terms of diversity around race. And that stung. That actually didn't feel great. But in the spirit of, Maya Angelou, who says, do the best you can until you know better, and then do better. I kind of pulled us up by our bootstraps and said, you know what, we're going to solve for this in the next year. And so what we've done, and actually it's remarkable how fast we've been able to do this, is we've just extended the pipeline, the diversity of our pipeline. So when we've worked with headhunters or we've done recruiting, we've just made sure that our pipeline is diverse. And you know what happens, Fawn, when your pipeline is diverse? You hire more diverse candidates.
Thank you so much for your willingness to share so openly with us. To admit that you didn't do as well in some areas, not always easy to do, but you're walking the walk, right? This is a safe zone, and it's good to focus on the things that we don't do well, so that we can continue to improve. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that insight or your story, your results so transparently. Yeah. Let's talk about your work. Your work spans two industries or two sectors, healthcare and technology, in which women have historically been underrepresented in leadership roles in both sectors.
Yeah.
What advice would you give women who want to advance their careers within these two very specific industries or sectors?
Yeah. Show up as your authentic self. I think a number of women believe that to be effective, they should show up with, I need to conform to this ideal, this particular picture of what I think success and strength looks like in this organization. And what I would love women to see is that your strength comes from the fact that you are a woman and not despite that fact. And it is critical for women to find the courage to show up as who is authentic to them. In fact, I think of a deeply rooted tree. And when we show up as our authentic self, we are that tree. And it's really like it's hard to get knocked over. But if you're showing up kind of wearing this persona that isn't who you are, boy, is it incredibly easy to get knocked over.
So, my next question is about your achievements. What has been the biggest success in your
Mhm.
career? And on the flip side, what has been the biggest challenge or obstacle that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, they're one and the same. So, COVID hit, and not only were our employees, our team in crisis, our customers were in crisis, the world was in chaos. And in some respects, we were kind of grateful because while the world was being asked to stay home and watch Netflix to serve, the GHX team, our customers were on the front line. So
Yeah.
we were able to serve, and that was really important at that moment in time. And so, we said, forget about everything that you thought mattered a month ago. Literally, we are dropping everything and we are just focusing on how do we help our customers on the front lines. We had daily stand-ups. We were giving away product without cost. We were deploying our resources to help our customers. But as a leader, what it took was being able to, at 8 a.m., wake up as what we called wartime CEO, which meant take no prisoners, make decisions, move fast, be bold, courageous, and take action because it was the difference of life and death.
Yeah.
But our teams were in crisis. Our teams were hurting. So if 8 a.m. we were wartime CEO, by 10 a.m., we needed to be able to lead with heart and empathy and compassion.
Yep.
In great leaders, it's not just that they can modulate from one end of the spectrum to the other, but that they know when. And so it was during COVID that this understanding of true leadership crystallized for me. And so I think there's something very beautiful about being a leader today because you can be decisive and strong while still having heart, right?
Mhm.
You can, in fact, I believe that leaders of this next generation, they do need to be tough without being mean. And you know what? You can be kind without being weak.
100%. And I always try to be fair. Fairness is so important in this equation, right?
Yeah.
To be tough and kind when you need to be.
Yes.
And the one consistent element is to be fair. And
Yeah.
fairness is so important
Yeah.
as well. So thank you for sharing that. That is during that period. I was so proud to be in healthcare, although we didn't, you know, provide any care, but we played a role
Yeah.
in this equation, in the process.
Absolutely.
You all were doing the, you were delivering on the mission
Yeah.
and living the purpose
Yeah.
that you talked about. So thank you
Yeah.
for the work that you and your team did
The
during COVID
team.
and
Yeah.
continue to do.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our conversation, and my last question to you is this: what is something you know now that you
Oh,
wish you had learned earlier in your career?
Yeah. A lot. A lot. In fact, I always think about, Tina at 30 versus Tina at 50. And I just think there's something quite beautiful in embracing the wisdom that we have at 50 that I just didn't have at 30.
Yeah.
But if I were to say one thing, when I actually remember I was 3 years old. I was 3 years old when I first learned that women could actually make babies. And my entire life, like, that was my dream, to be a mom. And so when I had my baby daughter, like, this was a lifetime dream come true. In fact, you know what's funny? My senior year in high school, the yearbook committee had prophecies for all I went to an all-girls school, and a prophecy for each of us. And my prophecy was that I was someday going to be a multinational, a global CEO.
Wow.
Fawn, I was so offended by that, because in my silly brain, that meant they thought I couldn't be a good mom.
Oh.
In my mind, that's the way it was. So through the years, I put tremendous pressure on myself. So those early years of being a working mom, it was this continual cycle of giving myself grace, forgiving myself for being a working mom, and putting so much effort into balancing. Remember in the early days, I used to ask my mom and my sister if I had to travel, to have them travel with me, or waking up at 3:30 in the morning so that I could work, before the day started. And so I put so much pressure. And then when there was this seminal moment when my daughter was 2 years old, and I was getting ready to leave, and I was giving that sweet little monkey a kiss. And she said, "Oh, Mama, this is such a heartbreak." Heartbreak was her way of saying heartbreak.
Oh.
And something triggered in that moment, something triggered in my brain, because that sweet 2-year-old girl didn't know anything about heartbreak. But what I'd been telling her, what I had been signaling to her, was the fact that I worked was a bad thing. And in that moment, I stopped and I said, "Oh, honey, no, 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 honey. Mama has important work to do. There are people that need Mama's help." And I am telling you, in that moment, I saw her eyes get big. I saw her get this big smile with I saw as like pride. She turned around and she toddled her way down the hall. And in that moment, guilt was replaced by purpose. And I think guilt for me, as well as for my daughter, was replaced by purpose. And, I think it's okay to have that duality. I can feel the importance of my work in an industry that matters, at the same time is feeling the purpose of being a good mom, being a good wife, daughter, sister, friend. And so what I know today, what I understand today, is that wearing that mama hat has made me a better leader. And being a leader and being on this leadership journey has made me a better mama.
What a great story.
Yeah. Thank
That
you.
is, I love that. That's just beautiful and so powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that
Thank
story with
you.
us. And thank you for being so authentic and for sharing your story so generously with us today, Tina. I've truly enjoyed and appreciate our conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawn. And thank you for the work that you do to bring forth these stories. Some really inspirational stories that you've shared. Pretty cool, Fawn.
Thank you, Tina. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I look forward to seeing you on the next Fridays with Fawn. Until then, please be well, be safe. Thank you.